Trump, who has had enormous difficulties, principally escaping the Jeffrey Epstein story, was looking for this trip and his appearances with the royal family and this white tie dinner that the king is throwing for him to overshadow his problems. The difficulty he has run into is that last week the Prime Minister fired the UK ambassador to Washington, Peter Mandelson, and he fired Peter Mandelson because it has come out that Mandelson had a very, very, very close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. It began in the birthday book, and then there was a leak of emails which Bloomberg got. Trump went around saying to aides, why couldn't they wait until after the trip? This is just going to remind people of Epstein, and then Epstein.
Michael Wolff, you are in London where everything is going on, but I wanted to kick off with some good news. I hope it's good news for our audience. Your support has meant the world to us. Your comments have meant the world to us. And we are pleased to report that what started as a trial podcast with Michael and I talking inside Donald Trump's head over the summer has...
And talking over each other often.
Definitely interrupting each other, has somewhat taken off. And we are now official. Inside Trump's head is now official. We're going to be coming to you on Tuesdays and Thursdays on YouTube. And Michael, this is rather exciting news.
Well, here we are with each other for the duration.
For eternity. We've even been sent by YouTube a clapperboard, which I'm going to do this with, which I think you only get if you reach a certain level of an audience enthusiasm, which I'm very excited by. But what better day to announce this news than on the day when you are literally projected, the face of Michael Wolff is projected, I think it's 200 feet tall, is that possible? On one of the turrets of Windsor Castle in the remarkable guerrilla movie of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump on the side of Windsor Castle for Donald Trump's visit.
I would have said that Donald Trump can't escape Jeffrey Epstein, but possibly he can't escape me either.
Well, this is, and I gather you've been hearing from everybody. I mean, what? Let's just decode what is, I think, I mean, it's out Banksy. It's an incredible piece of guerrilla marketing. What a genius thing to do.
Yeah. Do we know how they got it up there?
Well, I think it was just projected, right? It was just a projection, so you can do it from many yards or feet away. I remember we actually projected fashion images on the side of the Empire State Building, first time it had ever been done.
I assume they don't have permission to do that, or maybe they do have permission. Maybe Charles said, "Yeah, let go for it."
I don't think Charles would have said it, but William might.
Yes.
I think we definitely know that Prince Andrew wouldn't have done.
Well, and what we definitely know, if they had done it in Washington, people would have rushed in to take it down and to stop it. And this seems to merrily go on.
Well, no, I think the 4 people that did it have been arrested and charged, actually. But what you can't do is stop the images online. So for however long it was up there, I think it was an hour, the images have gone everywhere and are indelible.
So, as apparently am I.
As you are indeed. And I wanted to give a shout out to Tom Sykes, actually, who was all over this story very early, and our team in London led by Nico Hines and Dan Ladden-Hall, who've been doing an incredible job monitoring every single move that Trump has made. But please, Michael, from the moment Air Force One touched down, talk us through this historic visit.
The visit is meant to echo a visit. God, how long ago was that now? Almost 8 years ago. When Trump came and met with the Queen, one of the things that he often said was a high point of his presidency. And Trump has this thing about the royal family, which is kind of hard to decipher. It's kind of a postcard fantasy about the royal family, or perhaps it's a larger fantasy in which he becomes a character. So King Charles, and he made a mistake yesterday and referred to him as Prince Charles, perhaps because king is the fantasy he reserves for himself. But it's very on both sides. So the Brits are looking forward to this, or the Labour government and the Prime Minister Keir Starmer is looking forward to this because he's had a terrible, terrible week, actually several weeks, several months, you could say. And so he's looking to this visit for good news, hoping for a trade agreement that will be able to overshadow all kinds of difficulties that he's had. Likewise, Trump, who has had enormous difficulties, principally escaping the Jeffrey Epstein story, was looking for this trip and his appearances with the royal family and this white tie dinner that the king is throwing for him to overshadow his problems. Now, the difficulty he has run into is that last week the Prime Minister fired the UK ambassador to Washington, Peter Mandelson, and he fired Peter Mandelson because it has come out that Mandelson had a very, very, very close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I should point out, not as close as Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, but nevertheless a close relationship with an email trail documenting their friendship.
And it came to light in the birthday book, right?
It began in the birthday book, and then there was a leak of emails which Bloomberg got, and no one seems to know quite how they got this leak of emails. But there was Mandelson talking to Epstein and basically saying, I support you and you're going to get through this. And notably, if this had happened in the UK, no one would have ever thought anything of it. You would have just it wouldn't have been an issue in the UK. So Peter Mandelson got hoisted on that and he was fired, plunging Donald Trump into something of a rage with Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, because Trump went around saying to aides, why couldn't they wait until after the trip? This is just going to remind people of Epstein, and then Epstein. He repeats. Well, Trump is famous for this, for his repetitions. But whenever Epstein comes up, he seems to repeat it 3 times. So
as if it's some kind of voodoo.
Yes, it's his mantra: Epstein. And it's haunting him. And so here he is in the UK. Mandelson has just been fired, and it's the big story in the UK. And of course, there's a further backdrop to this, which is Prince Andrew was brought down by Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell, who's a Brit, is imprisoned because of Jeffrey Epstein. And here Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein's again, and I think we have to continue to repeat this. Jeffrey Epstein's closest friend in life, Donald Trump, is. So
I just want to get this straight. So, and I want to remind people that when Peter Mandelson turned up in DC as the British ambassador, he had actually been critical of Donald Trump, something which Chris LaCivita, Donald Trump's co-campaign manager, pointed out. And in fact, he tweeted out, saying Peter Mandelson is an absolute moron. And it looked as if this relationship might not go very smoothly. But in fact, Mandelson, because he is known as the Minister of the Dark Arts, managed to smooth it over very quickly. There was a video of him with Trump. He was standing behind Trump. He then said very flattering things about Donald Trump. And this visit was supposed to be something that he would be in charge of all the logistics. It was a huge triumph for Britain. And now you're saying that Donald Trump is furious with Keir Starmer for not delaying his
flight. Yeah, and it's been Peter Mandelson has been quite successful as the UK ambassador. That to the extent that it is possible, I mean, let's acknowledge this is a bad situation for every country, but the UK, you can argue, has probably made the best of this, and the strategy here to abjectly flatter Donald Trump. You'll remember the prime minister met with Trump, brandished a letter from the king, and
which I think he wasn't expecting Donald Trump to read, but in fact he unfurled it almost like a sort of speaker of old and read it with just enormous glee and joy.
No, and a brilliant move architected by Peter Mandelson. So it's a kind of, I mean, it's an irony that the guy did a great job, but, except for this one small issue, Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, and amazing the way it came to light. The birthday book comes out. Everybody is focused on the Donald Trump letter. Is it there? Is it not there? Did he do a drawing? Is there a poem? What's the wonderful secret? And then as people spend time with the book, they discover, I think, 4 pages from Peter Mandelson, including a picture of what looks like a prepubescent girl with her face redacted, and then literally an unambiguous line from Peter Mandelson, from your best pal, Peter.
Yeah, no, and that is, and I know this, and I know from conversations with Epstein that they were genuinely good friends for a long period of time. This was, and essentially what Mandelson is getting hoisted on is being one of the few people who didn't flee from Epstein after his legal problems began. I mean, he stayed in there.
Well, it's cost Peter Mandelson his job, and so.
But let me. It's a thing that I was at a dinner last night, and people were furious at the dinner. This is dinner in London. That the Peter Mandelson story has not gotten more attention in the U.S., which they regard somewhat as a slight to
Britain, that nobody cares
in the world, and it hasn't gotten much attention. And this is over here. I would say that it's one of the preoccupations is the UK still important to the US? Is it genuinely important to Donald Trump? Does Donald Trump really care about the UK? And is he going to give the UK something, a meaningful trade agreement, or is this really just to have just a long several days of a photo op?
Let me ask you something. Do we think that Donald Trump knows about the movie that was projected against Windsor Castle?
We don't know. I'm trying to let me just go through this in my head, because obviously the aides around him would now know about this.
Well, I'm sure it's been every news broadcast.
Exactly. So, but it's probably not leading every news broadcast in the U.S. I don't know. Is it? You would know that.
Well, when I have 4 different news stations on my television, and at one point, I think 3 out of the 4 were showing it. at the same time. It's surreal.
You have four different. So you're like Donald Trump.
Well, it's known as multi-view. It's very straightforward. It's an advantage of YouTube TV, but it's multi-view, so I can watch four different things at the same time. But
is it on the same screen?
On the same TV.
Oh yeah, Donald Trump has four different screens, so he's
I'm sure he's
not caught up to that technology.
He's probably got four on each of his four screens, giving him 16 news channels. I only have four, but it's certainly been part of the dialogue here. Though of course we've had bigger stories going on with the death of Charlie Kirk. So Peter Mandelson hasn't gotten much attention here at all,
and he will. And he is. I mean, I think that this is all part of his the background to his unhappiness. He should be happy. He is not happy. But no, that's par for the course with Donald Trump. He is always at some level of disgruntlement. So, and coming here, trying to get away from Epstein, and here Epstein is yet following him.
Well, and of course, there's the Prince Andrew of it all, and there was a massive, enormous sort of tarpaulin with a picture of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein with their arms around each other, which had been rolled out on a public lawn outside of Windsor Castle, which has also got a ton of attention, and obviously photographed by drones, which also went everywhere. But
there's another aspect of this that we should also point out, which is that there was a very substantial, a really substantial right-wing demonstration in the streets of London. I mean, led by a figure, in fact, a kind of Charlie Kirk-like figure in the UK, guy by the name of Tommy Robinson, which is a very, has become the young right-wing exponent. The demonstration was huge in the London streets. And Trump, were he of the mind to regard this, I think he could look at this, that his movement, the MAGA movement, led by him, is having a significant impact over here.
Well, maybe he'll move on from Greenland and he'll turn his eyes to Europe and taking over Britain. I mean, I think that would play into Putin's playbook, right?
It would actually suit me, because it would be nice to be able to have a seamless border.
Well, you may end up having to stay. You may end up having to stay over there. So let's just. I was very struck when he came down the steps of Air Force One at how tightly he seemed to be holding Melania's hand. We haven't seen them together, as you're frequently pointing out, for some time, although she suddenly cropped up at the AI event that they had at the White House with all the tech leaders, where she was talking about the dangers of AI. And then we saw her at the 9/11 memorial at the Pentagon. But we haven't seen them holding hands for a bit. In fact, normally she flicks his hand.
That's why he holds it tightly. And if he doesn't hold it tightly, she'll pull it away.
She'll pull it away. And he looked as if he was half holding on for her for support getting down the stairs, which must be very stressful when you've got all those cameras on you.
These stairs are very steep.
Yeah, I always feel sorry for the presidents running up and trying to come down them.
I don't know why they haven't solved that. They could have get a kind of a circular staircase and
well, they did solve it for Joe Biden, right? Which is they put it in the middle of the aircraft and they gave him shallower stairs. But you think these things are slippy. I'm sure I would fall both up and down them. So I have some sympathy. But
it's been very windy in London, so he could be. Well, it would have to be a big wind to.
Big wind to me.
Sweep him away.
All right, so he's held on to Melania. He's got to the bottom of the step, met by the protocol officer, and he's helicoptered off to Winfield House, where he's with the ambassador. What's happened since then?
Tonight there is this white tie dinner. I've actually never heard of a white tie dinner, but apparently that's
they're even smarter than black tie.
It's a royal thing. and it's the kind of height of the pomp of this, and a very significant formal event. It's what a state visitor gets. And one of the sidelights, the interesting things about that is that apparently this will be attended by Rupert Murdoch. Now this is kind of weird because Donald Trump is in the process of suing Rupert Murdoch, the Wall Street Journal, and which Rupert Murdoch owns, for $10 billion.
And this is over the revelation of the Epstein letter in the birthday book.
Right. So there's two interesting things about that. There was the Wall Street Journal's the Wall Street Journal first published this letter. Donald Trump said it was a hoax. But subsequent to that, the entire birthday book, all of the letters that were written to Jeffrey Epstein on the occasion of his 50th birthday in 2003, all of this organized, collated by Ghislaine Maxwell. This entire book was released, and sure as shooting, there was the letter from Donald Trump, the theoretically hoax letter from Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, nobody else in this of the many people who wrote Jeffrey Epstein letters, family, friends,
Leon Black, Alan Dershowitz, they're all there.
Random celebrities. Nobody else has denied the authenticity of these letters. The only one who has denied the authenticity is Donald Trump. So,
indeed, Peter Mandelson has been fired because of the authenticity of his letter.
Right, and he didn't say that's not me. So, and so we can assume that actually it's a genuine letter from Donald Trump. But he certainly has not said, okay, you got me, and withdrawn his suit. Rather, he is not only aggressively pursuing his lawsuit, but then he sued the New York, he announced he was going to sue the New York Times for also citing this letter. Now, possibly because someone near Trump said, "This is, you're on sort of sinking sands here," and he did not sue them because of this letter. Instead, he turned around yesterday and sued them for some other articles that he didn't like for $15 billion, I believe.
15 billion, and for years, he argues, of articles that were just written against him.
Right. So, right. In other words,
bias against him.
This is against the backdrop of after Charlie Kirk's death, saying that he is going after free speech. He doesn't call it free. He is going after leftist speech. That's what he wants to curtail. That's what he wants to regulate. Now,
hold on. Can we just go back to the spectre of this incredibly formal dinner where he will be dressed up in white tie? I'm sure we'll get details of whatever the First Lady is wearing. But he will be sitting near Rupert Murdoch. He will be eating at the same table as Rupert.
So I understand that he asked for Rupert Murdoch to be invited, and what Trump intimates have told me is because he believes that he can, quote, pressure the old man into a settlement. Rupert Murdoch is 94 years old. So if he can pressure him into a settlement, and then a person near Trump said to me that it could be an easy 10 million. So there is this kind of thing that he's now attacking free speech. I certainly in this instance as a way to collect some money for himself.
As a sort of shakedown.
which he did for, in his a suit against ABC. They settled for $15 million. A suit against CBS, they settled for $16 million, all which goes not to the United States Treasury, but to Donald Trump. And the lever here that he has against none of these suits would prevail in any court. They're specious, ridiculous. You can't even begin to take them seriously at any legal level. But he controls the United States government. So the United States government, so it's not just a lawsuit. It's just not just what happens in court. It's what these companies face in terms of interference by the United States government. So it's enormous leverage that he has over anyone that he sues on and again, who he is suing on a personal basis. Again, let me add this again, because it really is, it should not be overlooked. Never before in the modern age has a president of the United States sued a media company. Actually, and it may be that never before in the modern age has a president sued anyone on a personal basis.
Well, and it's also worth reminding people that the head of the DOJ, Pam Bondi, was his personal lawyer, and Todd Blanche, the number 2 at the DOJ, was his personal lawyer. And of course, the minute the Wall Street Journal released, or the minute the Wall Street Journal ran the piece about Trump's birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein, which you have always maintained was released by the Maxwell family as a shot across the bow to say, hey, Ghislaine is sitting in a unpleasant jail in Florida. Todd Blanche is on a plane 5 days after the release of the letter to interview her, and he takes 2 days interviewing her, and lo and behold, the following week, she's literally moved to a low-security jail in Texas, where she has a sister living, not in the jail in Texas.
And just to add, because I think we should keep track of this, all of these legal Trump legal issues, personal legal issues, are coordinated by a man by the name of Boris Epstein, who has been his consigliere throughout the campaign, and times actually before the campaign began, who still has essentially that client of one relationship with Trump. And he chose specifically not to come into the White House, but nevertheless coordinates all of Trump's personal legal strategies outside of the White House.
Well, it's going to be an absolutely riveting dinner tonight. So we've got Donald Trump possibly sidling up to Rupert Murdoch to say, hey, can we get something done? Do you think that Rupert Murdoch is, I mean, you've written 4 books on Donald Trump and you've written 2 books on Rupert Murdoch. So do we think that Rupert Murdoch is likely to settle? I know he's 94, but Rupert's mother lived till I think she was 102. But
even that, people say that, and I just, as though this is a long lease on life. He's 94, coming on 95. Even on the outside, it's time is running out here. He is, as Donald Trump calls him, that old man. He is an old man.
Well, and there was an almost comic moment when the Trump camp insisted that Rupert Murdoch be deposed quickly. They wanted him deposed within 2 weeks because Trump said he might die. So sort of remarkable maneuvering on both sides. But do you think that Rupert Murdoch is likely to settle?
I don't know. I think it's possible. I would never have said that the Rupert Murdoch of yore would never have settled. The Rupert Murdoch who ran one of the largest media companies in the world and one of the most aggressive media companies in the world certainly would never have settled. But as it happens, he just settled a very contentious lawsuit with his family. I think if you had to analyze this moment as is he wrapping up things, settling things, getting his affairs in order, this might be the moment to strike. And Donald Trump has a very strong animal instinct for someone's weaknesses.
But the Wall Street Journal op-ed page has been extremely aggressive. I mean, this week has been very robust against the Trump tariffs. It's really taken a very strong normie Republican line against Donald Trump. It's really come out swinging against him.
Yeah, no, well, I don't know. I mean, it has, and you would think, and Donald Trump is, Rupert Murdoch, as I've written 1,000 times, this can't stand Donald Trump. But Rupert Murdoch has always had this instinct for power. He knows where the wind blows. So
that really is like two elephants circling each other all round the very fine china of Windsor Castle, all dressed in their lovely white tuxedos. I do love a white.
Yeah, no, and it's I think we should keep our eye very closely on this space, because it is again, Donald Trump is winning.
Donald Trump is winning. Is he winning? I feel like the Epstein stuff has overshadowed.
Well, it doesn't. I didn't say he has won, but certainly in his war against the media, he is winning. And I would also keep my eye on, the editor of the Wall Street Journal, who is a Brit and a friend of yours.
Yep.
Emma Tucker. I would keep my eye on that space. Is someone going to have to pay for this, for the Trump hoax letter?
So let me take you back to the incredible pageantry that the UK has put on. Our royalist Tom Sykes wrote an excellent piece in The Beast today, which I would urge everybody to read, about how Britain has basically prostrated itself for Donald Trump. And we know he loves a parade, and the Brits are incredibly good at putting on wonderful, wonderful parades, beautiful, shining military parades that don't seem threatening but seem glorious and hark back to years of yore. I saw that Donald Trump was enjoying the full panoply of British pageantry. Do you think it will give him ideas?
Well, I think the more immediate question is, do the Brits get something out of this? Do they get their trade agreement? Do they get their does Keir Starmer come away with powerful headlines? I mean, there was a headline today. All of the papers led with a big tech investments. I mean, which is really not very much of anything, but they pumped it up. And
the Brits are spinning it as a sort of industry. It's a business deal.
Yeah, and I think that's what they want. That's what Keir Starmer wants to come out and say, this is what I've gotten. I bowed down to Donald Trump. I've sucked and sucked and sucked, and I've gotten something for it. The problem with that, with Trump, is that, he gives and he takes, and he gives and then he forgets that he's giving you something. And it has no consistency, no staying power. And he promises this tariff today, and then it's that tariff tomorrow. So I think I'd say that they are playing a game here, that the Labour government is playing a game that they're in the end not going to get much of a return on.
Well, it's also worth pointing out that Keir Starmer needed a visit like this to be successful for him, because he'd also, as well as Peter Mandelson, lost his deputy prime minister, Angela Rayner, which has been a huge domestic blow for him. So both of them looking to get something out of this, and both of them being compromised by the Epstein story, both with Peter Mandelson and Prince Andrew. And
then you have Nigel Farage in the background of this, who is certainly campaigning to be the next prime minister.
Nigel Farage, the leader of the very right-wing Reform Party,
right, has started a new party. It is the party that it is now all eyes are on the Reform Party, and Nigel Farage has been consistently a supporter, a friend, a player in Trump's own political rise. As a matter of fact, 8 years ago on that visit, when Trump came to the UK, I was here with Steve Bannon, and there was a lunch, a liquid lunch with Nigel Farage, of which I was present at.
Michael, you're going to have your own state visit at this rate. I mean, we said, Hugh Doherty pointed out on the podcast earlier this week that this is actually a very unusual second state visit. Most heads of state only get one visit with royalty, but because Donald Trump saw the Queen last time he was over, and of course the Queen died, and there's a new monarch, King Charles is now in the position to offer him a second visit, because it's about the visit to the monarch, not the visit to the country. Is it?
And also this became a strategically useful, the presentation of the letter in desperation. Literally every country is desperate about its relationship with the U.S. because I mean, these tariffs are real, draconian, and damaging. And so it's for everyone. It's how can we minimize? Let's do anything possible to minimize the damage here. And so that's the hope. They can trot out Prince Charles and Prince Charles. Now I'm still.
Well, he had 70 years. He had 70 years as an apprentice for that job. So it's no surprise we get his title wrong.
I mean, it will be curious. Actually, that conversation will also be very curious.
Well, do you think this has been good for the king and the royal family, this visit?
I mean, I think it will be a question of what they come away with here, what they can claim, and does it stick? Does it have holding power, or is this just that they just are they just victims of more Trump baloney?
Well, Michael, we expect you to report back on the dinner and whether or not Donald Trump and Rupert Murdoch, two old white men, get into fisticuffs over many plates, many glasses, many forks and I mean, I can just imagine the place settings, or the tabletop, as Americans calling it, with all the different knives and forks and the napkins and the finger bowls. I mean, it is a glorious thing, a white tie dinner at Windsor Castle. I'm talking as if I've been to one. I haven't, but I have been to Buckingham Palace a few times, and the royal family are extremely good at at entertaining. I mean, they really are. So I hope Donald Trump and Melania have fun. I hope that Melania gets to sit next to Camilla, who seems to have recovered from her unfortunate bout of sinusitis. And I did want to suggest that when you talk to Trump's people, they ask the royal family how Donald Trump should learn to shake hands, because I noticed as he came down the stairs, he has a very firm grip. He really does, as we know, he does that whole pulling back and forth with the hand, which may or may not be leading to the bruising on both hands. So maybe he's doing some left-handed grips too. But the royal family actually have very specific protocol that you put your hand out as a subject of the royal family. You put your hand out and they very gently squeeze it. So you're not supposed to do the vigorous shake.
Again, let me rush in to say this is already a long explanation. Donald Trump does not do even short explanations. So this is going nowhere.
Well, then we're going to see more of his bruises. I'm very curious, if you shake his hand, do you get makeup on your hand?
Well, I have shaken his hand, and no, it's actually.
But didn't you shake his hand before he had makeup to cover the bruises?
Yes, I have not shaken his hand in recently, but I do remember shaking his hand. That I do remember the feeling that it's a plump hand.
It's a plump hand. Well, Michael, we'll see what hand the British come away with after this spectacular state visit. We'll be talking to Tom Sykes tomorrow for the royal perspective on this and whether or not Prince Andrew has managed to stay out of the way, or as he did at the Duchess of Kent's funeral, he pops up and manages to Zelig-like appear in all the photographs in which Prince William looks absolutely livid that he's there, because he's obviously very conscious that his job is to take the royal family on into the next generation. And having the spectre of Prince Andrew and, of course, his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is not best helpful.
You may not have been to Buckingham Palace, but I have been.
I have been to Buckingham Palace. I just haven't been to Windsor Castle.
Okay. Well, I, on the other hand, have been on the face of Windsor Castle, apparently.
200 feet tall, someone's telling me, which I can't believe. I want to show you the clapperboard that YouTube has sent us. It's very exciting. I'm going to bang it twice to remind people that we are now going to be a permanent addition to your feed in YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Please leave us a comment on YouTube. Join and become a member of the Daily Beast community. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and feel free to share it with a friend. Share it with a friend, share it with a colleague, share it with someone that you haven't talked to in your family for a long time and you need something to talk to them about. You can argue about whether or not Michael Wolff is right, and Rupert Murdoch may be in the mood for settling. Although I sort of think if Rupert Murdoch were going to go down, if he is sorting out his business affairs, this might be one denouement that he's not prepared to close.
Well, let's see.
Michael, have fun in London. We'll be back later this week. And as our First Lady would have us say, be beast. And thank you to our production team, Devon Rogerino, Anna von Urson, and our editor, Jessie Millward.